Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Start Your Systems MX Bikes track review. Today we will be going over Artzamendi MX by SB Suki. Now, you might be familiar with Suki's work. He's got some other bangers that he's come out with in the past, such as Sanctuary, Candyland, my personal favorite, Deadlock, and then of course his most recent one of Crestwood. Now, Suki has previously specialized in more of the off-road, freeride, sort of enduro style maps, and maybe, they do have a sort of motocross track layout intermixed into it, but it's usually not the crown jewel of the work that he puts out. However, with Artzamendi, the motocross track is the primary focus of the compound. He even describes it as a motocross compound on the shop page, and the freeride zones and the pit bike area are more kind of just accentuating the motocross track itself. And boy, is it a beautiful motocross track. The mountain scenery is insane. So without further ado, let's hop into some laps. So we start this 3,600 meter long motocross track, which is massive, with a sick little freeride ramp out of the pit area and into this little gully that shoots you onto the track. Just some super fun side hits just to start the lap. You love to see it. It just kind of sets you off on a good vibe, ready to hit some big jumps and have some fun. Now, this track is super wide open. You're pretty much third, fourth, fifth gear pinned throughout the entire track. And of course, the jumps are huge too, so you got to be wide open in order to hit the jumps. I'm currently on a KTM 250. However, Suki does say in his MX Bike shop post that he recommends the 450 just because it makes it a little bit easier to do things, especially on some of the freeride hits as well. They're just a little bit too difficult on the 250. Like this right here, I've got to just hold it wide open and I barely make it. So yeah, definitely 250 and 450 friendly, but 450 is a little bit easier, or if you're a little newer to the game, then I definitely recommend ripping this track on a 450. I figured on this first lap here I would hit mostly outside lines, and then on the second lap, I'll go around and hit mostly the inside lines just to kind of show you the variation in the lines and how it kind of changes the flow of the track. Something that I do love about the way that Suki makes his tracks is they always have a flow to them. The track is just so flowy. There's nothing that feels, forced. Like all the turns and all of the obstacles, they all seem like they're where they should be, if that makes any sense. Like I feel like a lot, or some tracks rather, just have obstacles that feel like they don't fit. You kind of have to hit a corner a specific way that doesn't seem like it's the way that it was made in order to actually hit the jumps or anything like that right. And that's the exact opposite of how Suki does his tracks. It seems like every single corner leads you to exactly where you need to be to hit the jump. Obviously, I get a little sketchy in spots like this, but yeah, just one of the things that I'm a huge fan of with the way he makes tracks. And then of course, cool obstacles like this, going across a bridge as part of the main line of the track is just crazy. I don't think we've ever seen that on an outdoor track, and yeah, that's just sick. And then sections like this too that are just wide open with a little bit of rough in them as well. It makes you feel like you're going through sand whoops and like you're actually just insanely cracked at the game, even though it's still super easy to hit those whoops. But just the way that he makes them and the way that the textures are on it makes it feel gnarlier. Jumping across this transfer here on the 450, you can make that no problem and jump over the telephone lines, which is a pretty cool addition. Like I said, I just feels like every time Suki makes a compound, it feels like a passion project. Like even just the way that the environment blends in with like the surrounding background photo of the mountains, like it seems like it fits. It doesn't seem like the mountains in the background are different than the obstacles and the environment that like he's put on the actual track. It meshes together really well. and then back into these berms right here that, similar to that sand whoop section by the finish line, they're just arced the perfect amount where you can just hold it pinned around the whole thing and it makes you feel like you're way faster than you are, which everybody loves. And coming back into this left-hander, that is one complete lap. And as we come back into this big hit here with the Norms logo on the landing, shout out to Suzki for showing some love to the Norms boys. We appreciate it, especially on such a work of art like this. Now, obviously, as you've seen, this track does have some huge jumps, as I come up short on that one. But one of the things I love, I think he's made the faces of the jumps pretty dang good, and they set you up great to throw some huge whips off of them. So if you're somebody that needs to practice your whips, this track would be a great place to practice those. And as you can see, I clearly need some practice because I am being an actual goon, throwing some terrible whips and getting sketchy. So yep, we're going to hit some insides here. And actually right here is one of the cool things about it. He's got this like sideline here that comes directly off the track, and you can hit this massive hit over the bridge, throw a little oppo, get a little sketchy, nothing crazy, and it leads you into this free ride line with a cool little drop off, some sweet doubles, and then it actually takes you right back onto the track, which is awesome. Now, these, obviously that step down, they're actually pretty hard to time at first. One of them is a little bit shorter than you would expect. One of them you got to hit wide open. There's two. There's another drop down on one of the free ride sections that we'll get to here in just a minute. But I like how this just then goes back onto the track and it's like poof, you're doing your lap as if nothing happened, even though, you know, you just got done taking a little break from the grind and maybe throwing some style, hitting some side hits, hitting some free ride jumps. It's just so cool to me that he would put something like that in. Like I said, it seems like every compound he makes is a passion project, and he really puts some thought into the way the jumps flow, how high they throw you, how far they throw you, little stuff like that little free ride part that connects to the track. It's just so cool to see. Now, a separate thing, something that Suki does mention in his post, obviously this is a fairly big compound. It's not the biggest, but it's like got a lot of detail in it. So if you're struggling with frames, he does recommend try turning off 3D grass, and that should help you. So if you download this track and you're like, what the heck, I'm not getting very many frames on it, turn off 3D grass. It shouldn't affect the quality of how things look too much, and it should help with that performance side of things. Another cool little tidbit that he includes in his shop post is that Artzamendi is actually a mountain in southern France, and it seems like he took a scan of the terrain in that area and actually just like replicated it in game and then made a track based off of how that terrain is IRL. So pretty cool. As we get into the free ride section here, coming from that main pit area, it's got a little trail that goes off to the side for a little side hit and has some options. On the right side, you go into just a little trail section. If you're a newer player and maybe need some practice with bike skills, trail sections can always be nice. Suki has made some really cool trail sections in his other compounds that he's made. Again, my favorite being Deadlock, the trail section, and that is just so sick. I could spend laps on it for hours, and hopefully you clear that jump better than I do on your playthrough. Next, if we stay to the left, this is that second step down that I was talking about. This one's a little easier to hit than the other one, in my opinion. And it leads you into a pretty dang cool line of big jumps and side hits, which are a little bit tough on the 250. As you can see, I'm coming up short on quite a bit of things. And he does mention, of course, in his post that he recommends the 450 for the free ride jumps, like this jump right here. I'm just wide open on the 250, stretching it out. So yeah, this is sick, and it actually goes, you can either go left and go back to the start of the trail, or you can go right, and this actually takes you into the loop off the side of the track. And finally, the last feature that we have here on the compound is a pit bike backyard. Hidden behind that house, it's a little BMX inspired pit bike track. It's got some cool lines. You can obviously, for a pit bike, get some big air, do some backflips, release your inner It's Nate, and hit some crazy Poboso physics lines. And yeah, it's just cool. Like I said, adding some details, adding some cool things, into it to make the compound more worth it, and I'll show you here where it is in comparison to the rest of the compound. It's just in the backside of that big step up to the left of it behind the house. And yeah, it's pretty sick. I didn't want to ride it. I don't have much skills there in that regard, but figured I'd show it off. And that's going to be it from me, guys, here at Artzamendi by SB Suki. Again, this track is available on MX Bikes Shop for $2, and it is out now. So go pick it up and spin some laps, hold the throttle wide open, and throw some massive whips over these big booters. Suki did a great job with this track. I love the mountain scenery in the background. It looks like a good quality image, and it flows great with the rest of the compound. So I will definitely be taking some photos and getting some clips for the gram. That's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching this Start Your Systems MX Bikes track review, and we'll see you in the next one.